Jeremiah Wilson J. Nixon is an American politician who was the 55th and current governor of Missouri, a member of the Democratic Party. Nixon was first elected governor in 2008 and re-elected in 2012. Born in Soto, Missouri, J. Nixon is a graduate of University of Missouri School of Law. Beginning a career in private practice, Nixon was elected to the Missouri State Senate in 1986. In 1988, after 2 years in the state Senate, Nixon ran for the United States Senate, posing a challenge to incumbent Republican Senator John Danforth. Nixon lost in the general election with 32% of the vote to Danforth's 68%. He served in the state Senate until he was elected Attorney General of Missouri in 1992. In the 1998 U.S. Senate election, Nixon lost to incumbent Kit Bond 53 to 44%. In 2008, after incumbent Republican Governor Matt Blunt announced he would not seek re-election, Nixon declared his candidacy for governor of Missouri, won the Democratic primary, and faced Representative Kenny Hulshoff in the general election. On November 4, 2008, Nixon defeated Hulshoff and was elected governor. Nixon was sworn in on January 12, 2009. He was re-elected in 2012 and began his second term in January 2013. Early life. J. Nixon is a lifelong resident of DeSoto, Missouri, where he was born. His mother, Betty Lee, was a teacher and president of the local school board, and his father, Jeremiah "Jerry" Nixon, served as the city's mayor. One of his paternal thrice-great-grandfathers, Abraham Jonas, was an early Jewish settler in Illinois and friend of Abraham Lincoln. His great-great-grandfather, Charles Henry Jonas, was the brother of Democratic U.S. Senator Benjamin F. Jonas of Louisiana, and another, James Oscar Nixon, was a brother of U.S. Representative John Thompson Nixon of New Jersey. Another paternal ancestor, John Inskip, had served as mayor of Philadelphia. He graduated from the University of Missouri in 1978, later earning a law degree from the same institution. Missouri State Senate. In 1986, after a period of private practice in his hometown, J. Nixon was elected to the Missouri Senate from a district in Jefferson County, serving for 2 terms from 1987 to 1993. 1988 U.S. Senate election. He made his first bid for statewide office in 1988, an unsuccessful effort to oust incumbent U.S. Senator John Danforth. Nixon only won 32% of the vote compared to Danforth's 68% at the time, the most lopsided defeat a Democrat had suffered in a statewide race in Missouri history. Missouri Attorney General. He was first elected as Missouri's Attorney General on November 3, 1992, on a platform of fighting crime, cleaning up government corruption, and protecting consumers and the environment. Nixon followed William L. Webster as Attorney General. The 1992 race for Attorney General between Nixon and former State House Minority Leader David Steelman was especially heated. However, Nixon beat Steelman 51 to 45%. Nixon was re-elected as Attorney General by a wide margin in 1996, 2000, and 2004. 1998 U.S. Senate election. In 1998, J. Nixon again made an unsuccessful run for the U.S. Senate, losing to incumbent Republican Kit Bond by 53 to 44%. Accomplishments: Nixon implemented the state's no-call program. More than 3.5 million Missourians are a part of the no-call list, which reduces unwanted telemarketing calls. J. Nixon also had has recovered more than $1.2 million from telemarketers who violated the no-call law. Nixon's victory in the Supreme Court of the United States in Nixon v. Shrink Missouri government PAC reinstated Missouri's campaign contribution limits and cleared the way nationally for campaign finance reform. In two other cases of significance, Nixon's work in the Blue Cross and Blue Shield and the Health Midwest cases have resulted in the formation of the state's two largest health care foundations, which will use more than $1.5 billion to help provide health care services to the state's population. Litigation by Nixon against tobacco companies for illegally marketing cigarettes to young people resulted in the largest settlement in the history of the state. As the state's Attorney General, Nixon created the Environmental Protection Division to enforce Missouri's environmental laws. Attorneys in this division take legal action to stop the pollution of the state's air, water and soil and to look after Missouri's agricultural interests. Successful litigation by the division has resulted in the cleanup of polluted sites and millions of dollars awarded to the state. His aggressive actions in the Attorney General's office earned him national recognition. Barrister magazine named him one of the 20 outstanding young lawyers in the nation, and the Missouri Jaycees selected him one of 10 outstanding young Missourians. Prior to becoming Attorney General, he was recognized by the Conservation Federation of Missouri for his environmental work as a state senator. Nixon received the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award. Of those scouts who have attained the rank of Eagle Scout, fewer than 1 in 1,000 have received the Distinguished Eagle Scout Award. He attained the rank of Eagle Scout in 1969 at the age of 13 as part of Troop 559 in Soto. The award was presented by the Great Rivers Council on behalf of the National Eagle Scout Association and the Boy Scouts of America during 2010 as part of the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America. In 2013, he joined with 9 mayors to establish July 15th as Social Media Giving Day, encouraging citizens to support charities via social media. Controversies. Nixon has overseen the state's involvement in the court settlements that ended mandatory urban busing in St. Louis and Kansas City's public schools. His role in the desegregation cases has caused friction with some African American leaders. In addition, Missouri Republicans have criticized Nixon for his campaign managers soliciting campaign contributions from utility companies, including American, during an ongoing criminal investigation by his office of the company, which were immediately returned when the matter drew attention. The Missouri Information Analysis Center issued a report titled The Modern Militia Movement on February 20, 2009, informing the Missouri State Highway Patrol of several groups of people who could possibly be linked to domestic militia groups. According to the report, these groups included white Christians, supporters of third-party presidential candidates Ron Paul, Bob Barr, and Chuck Baldwin, as well as opponents of gun control, illegal immigration, abortion, the Federal Reserve System, and the Internal Revenue Service. Following a joint letter from Paul, Barr, and Baldwin condemning the report, Nixon and the MIAC issued an apology concerning the report and stated that it will no longer be displayed on any official state websites. Governor of Missouri. Elections 2008 election. Governor Matt Blunt announced on January 22, 2008 that he would not seek a second term. By the filing deadline on March 25, 2008, 3 Democratic and 5 Republican candidates had filed. In the primary election on August 5, 2008, Nixon was selected to be the Democratic nominee. U.S. Representative Kenny Hulse Hoff was selected to be the Republican nominee. Nixon won the gubernatorial race by 19 percentage points over Hoff to become Missouri's 55th governor on November 4, 2008. 2012 election. The 2012 Missouri gubernatorial election was held on November 6, 2012. Nixon won re-election against Republican businessman Dave Spence. 10-year public defender system funding crisis. On August 2, 2016, Michael Barrett, director of the Missouri State Public Defender System, called on Nixon to act as a public defender in a criminal assault case. Nixon's communications director, Scott Holster, questioned the authority of Barrett to do so. The appointment follows a July 2016 legal action in which Barrett al. challenged the constitutionality of restricting funds for indigent defense. In an open letter to Nixon, Barrett cites Missouri Revised Statutes Section 600.042.5 as well as the 6th and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution as reason for the controversial action. Barrett blames Nixon for the underfunding and understaffing of the public defender system and chose to appoint him because he is the one attorney in the state who not only created the problem, but is in a unique position to address it. Quote, according to Barrett, the funding for resources that assist with delivering legal services have increased between 5 and 6% since 2009, while costs over the same period have increased 18%. The caseload has increased over 12% in the past year, according to a 2008 report by the National Legal Aid and AMP Defender Association. Missouri ranks 49th in per capita legal aid spending. Ruth Petch, Jackson County, Missouri's chief public defender, cites the lack funding for inadequate defense and 9 to 12-month delays in adjudication for indigent persons who often remain in jail and are unable to maintain active employment during that time. The constitutional requirement for the public defender system at all levels of government was established in 1963 by Gideon v. Wainwright. Challenge from the state auditor. On August 26, 2011, Nixon was sued by state auditor Tom Schweik, who alleged he violated the state constitution by cutting spending on education and other services to help cover the costs of the Joplin tornado and spring flooding. Nixon reportedly announced $170 million in budget cuts for the fiscal year that began July 1, 2011. Schweik and his attorneys argued that the cuts were intended to be permanent and that the governor can reduce expenditures only when revenues fall below projections. Nixon's attorneys claimed that the cuts are temporary and authorized under a constitutional section that gives the governor the power to control the rate of expenditures. The section of the Missouri Constitution under question states, the governor may control the rate at which any appropriation is expended during the period of the appropriation by allotment or other means, and may reduce the expenditures of the state or any of its agencies below their appropriations whenever the actual revenues are less than the revenue estimates upon which the appropriations were based. Special session. On July 15, 2010, Nixon signed a tax incentives bill designed to support the state's automotive industry and manufacturing jobs. This bill passed after a 4-week special legislative session that he called to start on June 24 of that year. The incentives allow automakers to retain withholding taxes only after a company makes a firm commitment to make capital investments in productive capacity and keep workers on the job in Missouri. To offset the cost of the incentives, the governor asked legislators to reform the state's employee pension system. Legislators complied and passed the bill. Nixon signed it into law on July 19. Members of the new retirement system are required to contribute 4% of the pay to the pension system, work at least 5 years longer and must work 10 years to be guaranteed the pension as opposed to 5 years on the old system. Tax credits. On July 21, 2010, he unveiled a tax review commission composed of 25 business, community, and legislative leaders. He outlined 3 priorities for the commissioners: determine which of the 61 tax credit programs have a return on investment and then make recommendations. He wanted to ensure that the tax credits create jobs, boost development, and build strong communities. Nixon stressed several times that he did not want to eliminate tax credits, noting that it would create uncertainty in the market and would impact the bond ratings of Missouri. Critics argued that if the governor was serious about stimulating productive economic growth in Missouri, he would eliminate the tax incentive programs entirely. The commission traveled around Missouri to hear from residents, with its first stop in St. Joseph. All of the testimony at the first hearing was in favor of tax credits. 9 residents testified in favor of different tax credits, but due to the low numbers, the commission went into recess for a majority of the time between 3 and 9 p.m. Economic development. In September 2010, Nixon outlined his plan to move the state's economy forward at the Governor's Economic Development Conference in Kansas City. He said that he had worked hard to keep the state's fiscal house in order since he entered office in 2009 and noted how he had managed to cut $1.50 billion from the state budget over the 2 previous years. Nixon said the state managed to keep its AAA bond ratings by all 3 rating agencies, which made Missouri one of only 7 states across the country with AAA ratings by all 3 bond rating agencies at the time. The governor also talked about a steering committee he initiated and charged with the task of producing a strategic plan for the state's economic future. In 2013, Nixon met with company officials from Pharma Medica, a Canadian-based contract research organization, about expanding to Missouri. The company opened its first U.S. clinic and biotech lab in November 2013, and starting running clinical research trials in February 2014. Fiscal policy. Nixon proposed a fiscal budget for fiscal year 2012 that would reduce total spending by 2.5%. Total spending recommended by the governor in his State of the State address is $23.3 billion compared to estimated total spending of $23.8 billion for the fiscal year 2011, ending June 30th. The state plane. It cost taxpayers nearly $400,000 for Nixon to fly around the state during his first 2 years in office, with different state agencies picking up the tab. The last flight paid by the governor's office was on January 31, 2009. Lawmakers are working on legislation to prohibit the governor from using funds from other departments for travel expenses. Job creation ranking. In a June 2013 analysis by the Business Journals looking at 45 of the country's 50 governors by the job creation record, Nixon was ranked number 39. The 5 governors omitted from the analysis all assumed office in 2013. The ranking was based on a comparison of the annual private sector growth rate in all 50 states using data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, Homeland Security and Public Safety Committee. In October 2013, Nixon was appointed chair of the Homeland Security and Public Safety Committee in the National Governors Association by DA Chair Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin and NA Vice Chair Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. Shooting of Michael Brown and Ferguson unrest. Nixon's handling of the Michael Brown shooting and subsequent protests in Ferguson, Missouri, brought him international attention and criticism that he had not done enough to quell the rioting. As the details of the original shooting event emerged from investigators, police established curfews and deployed riot squads to maintain order. Along with peaceful protests, there was looting and violent unrest in the vicinity of the original shooting. According to media reports, there was police militarization when dealing with protests in Ferguson. Gov. Nixon first turned over control of the town to the Missouri State Highway Patrol and later declared a state of emergency and implemented nightly curfews, later calling in the National Guard to help restore peace and order. The unrest continued on November 24, 2014 after the police officer who shot Michael Brown was not indicted by grand jury. Electoral history. As governor, as Attorney General, U.